Good morning. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Public Works Committee for the month of October. Kathy, do you want to take attendance? Okay. Kathy Persons?
Hello, can you hear me?
Sure can. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay. All right, Denise, you're here. Chairperson McGraw, Supervisor Syed, Matt Yeto,
I'm here.
Ismat Alam, Brian Backus, Stan Fominski.
I'm here.
Who's Stan?
Yep, it's me,
Okay.
Kath.
Okay. Alexis Kim, Paul Briggs,
Yes.
Michelle Martinelli, Jessica Gerber,
Here.
Josh Hawley,
Here.
Rosemary Jackless, Bill McPartland, John Delarada, Laura Robertson.
I'm here.
Hello. Janet Wynn, Ray Smith, and did I miss anyone?
I'm here, Ismat Alam. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Diane Percy's here.
Hi, Diane. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you.
Supervisor Syed's here. I was trying to unmute my mic, but
She called you already, Yasmin.
Yeah, I didn't realize we were all responding that we were present.
I have you, Supervisor. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Kathy. If everyone has reviewed the minutes, I'll entertain any corrections or edits, additions. If not, I'll make a motion to accept.
I will second.
Thank you, Supervisor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Water and sewer items. Administration and engineering.
Okay, so the first item is just our monthly COVID response update. We haven't had any major issues as far as staffing, and we did this month start our re-entry into homes to do water meter replacements and other service calls. We have a new policy that Josh and Alexis helped us draft that involves a level of contact tracing and prior contact with the property owners to make sure that no one's sick in the house. It seems to be working well. Slows it down a little bit, but it's safer for everybody.
So Matt, is there an additional protocol now to be able to test our, wastewater as it relates to COVID? I think everyone saw in the news this week, there was another case, it may have been at Siena, where they were able to tell incidents of COVID through the wastewater.
I've heard nationally and in some local accounts too that certain groups have been using wastewater as an indicator. It's by the time it gets to our plant, it would be telling us if it's existing in the town, not necessarily that easily traceable. But no one's approached us as asking if they wanted a sample at our site, and we're welcome to provide access if the county wants to come in and test our wastewater for the presence of the COVID-19 whatever indicator that they're looking for. So I can reach out to the county health department and see if they're interested.
I just didn't know if DOH or DEC or one of the agencies that are responsible for things like this have given us an additional protocol to follow. I mean, I just don't know how they're finding these one-offs.
We haven't been contacted by either the state or the county. We regularly contact them on other things. I can ask them and see if they're interested.
Okay, thank you.
The next item is the T-Mobile Geotab fleet tracing or fleet tracking hardware that we received last week. It's been installed in a few vehicles already as sort of a test case, and I'm happy with what I'm seeing, and we're going to move forward with a full implementation of the project. I have enough to do 30 vehicles in our fleet, which is the majority of the vehicles in our fleet. And we are canceling our Verizon now that we know that everything seems to be working well with the T-Mobile system.
Okay.
I had mentioned during the budget process that we were interested in having our water tanks evaluated. It's been several years. I believe the last time they were painted was in 1997. And we were able to work with a company by the name of Suez. Josh and I met with them, and so did Tim Nagel from their water plant. They did a free evaluation of our tanks, and they're preparing a proposal for us to do long-term maintenance with them. We don't have to do that. We don't have to. We can go on our own, but it will be a valuable tool to know what the future costs will be. I have a budget number from them, and it's not going to be cheap, but it is something that needs to be done at some point in the near future. Within a few years, we need to start doing some rehab. It's major cost wise, but it's part of the wearing and the wear and tear that it happens on a water tank, on all three of our two 1 million gallon tanks and our elevated tank as well. So it's $4.6 million if we were to do all three today. That may be a little high, but it's something that has a 15 to 20 year life cycle once you do it. And then if you catch it within 15 years, you can recoat the tanks, assuming that they're maintained during that time. But it's been, like I said, it's been since 97 since anything major has been done to the tanks. They're not in bad shape. It's just the annual maintenance or the long-term maintenance that's required on those. But it's something to look forward to in the next few years to plan for. Whether we do one each year or do all three, it'll be cost will be a factor, and we'll have to look to see how we're going to fund that over the future.
Okay.
Item D, the high-strength waste mitigation plan. I know we've discussed it for several months, and I didn't know if there was any more update on the.
Yasmin, would you like to discuss it today, since we haven't been able to get a meeting scheduled in between each of these meetings, and try to get this put to bed today?
Yeah, absolutely. My office is actually in the process of writing a letter to all the residents that's on Whitmire Drive. So it's going to go to each one of those people. I thought I had everyone's contact info via email. Since I don't, we felt that this was the best way to reach every single person. So we'll be reaching out internally. Brian Backus will be doing that to get a date for our team. It's going to be after the town board agenda meeting, because we're hoping the town board agenda meeting is going to be our first in-person meeting. So after that, we will put on the calendar that mitigation plan meeting. So the letter that's going to go out to all of the residents on Whitmire is essentially going to ask them to RSVP to us by email. It's going to explain what the meeting's purpose is, ask them to join us at town hall on that date. So be looking for that email to confirm a date for all of us. And then that letter will go out. We'll have a mitigation meeting. And then we're going to move forward. And I'd be happy to provide an additional update on the wastewater treatment plant project if you want, but I can wait until that point comes up on the agenda.
No, you should do it now. That's fine. I mean, do we have a finalized plan of what we're going to present to neighbors?
I can circulate what I had again. I would like input from, Matt Yetto and his group if they have any suggested changes, or Denise from you, anybody, if anybody has any changes, yeah, we should get those in before we have that meeting. So certainly I will recirculate that plan
Sure.
again, and then just give me your feedback. We can incorporate everything.
Okay. That would be great. Thank you very much. I know you put a lot of work into this. It's gone on for a while now. It was well before Memorial Day when we started talking about this. And so you
Yeah.
have something else about the wastewater treatment plant?
Well, I met with Aiden Murphy of ESG. Gosh, was that last week? He prepared the M&V report, so everybody should have received that digitally. I have the hard copy. So in that meeting, we did discuss how we would move forward. I conveyed that the town does want to move forward with the project. He was happy to hear that. So essentially what he's looking for, and Paul Briggs, I know your office was going to write something, was going to author something to send. So essentially what they're looking for is a letter from the town essentially stating we want to continue the relationship. We do not want to release them from our relationship, and that we're going to move forward and hopefully get this project up and running.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's good news.
Yeah, it is good news. And they have some vendors, so waiting. So that is good news.
Next section, attorney's items. Paul, any update on the Myers sewer extension?
Yes, I've sent packages out to all the residents on Whitmire. The next step will be for them to contact me. I've asked each of them to individually contact me as to whether they're willing to sign a petition to put a sewer extension on Whitmire Drive. I've done the same for the Pierce group. I've sent them packages, and the same process is going to work. They're going to contact me and advise me whether they're willing to sign the petition. Once they do that, I'll meet with the individual people and have them sign, and then we'll start with town board action. And the next step is going to be we have to call for a public hearing, accept the petition and call for a public hearing.
So,
City water bill update.
so Paul,
There's
just
none.
back up for a second. So now
Ingersoll
Yasmin
Home.
is,
And there was
Paul.
some,
Paul,
pardon me?
Paul. So
Yes.
Yasmin is saying that all of the folks impacted by this are going to get together with us next week or in a week and a half.
Hello?
So maybe we want to get all of this out to them prior to that and have this be part of the agenda as well. Is there an issue with my audio or Paul's?
Having very, yeah.
Okay,
I'm-
I just didn't know if it was you or me.
Probably.
Paul, how about this? Why don't you try to get it fixed? And let's go to the next thing, and then we'll go back to attorney's items.
Okay.
Great.
Water and sewer maintenance. The Mark water main replacement project is still underway. Just talking to Josh earlier this morning, they have about 500 feet of main remaining, and then they have to do the water service connections to the homes.
So
They have about 5 weeks remaining on the project. Do you have anything else to add, Josh?
No, that's about it. The 5 weeks doesn't include restoration. That'd be kind of seasonally dependent if they, do final restoration this year or wait to the spring to do it. So I left that off of the approximation. We will be getting an updated schedule from Angelo pretty soon on that. One other thing to bring up, Matt, is we may be exceeding our engineering agreement inspection hours. potentially. So that may be something that's coming up from Prime Engineering.
Yeah, so we would have to do a change order to their contract. I don't see it being a huge change order, but just so that we have the funds available to pay them. There's still remaining money in the bonded line for water main, so there would be money to pay for that. The next item, we are waiting for one additional quote on the canopy construction project for the fueling project at the water and sewer garage. We had thought we were ready to go last month, but one of the contractors bidding on it didn't quite understand prevailing wage rates, and he would have ended up walking off the job because he didn't have enough money budgeted for his labor. So we pulled that rather than run into an issue. So we still have one valid quote, but we're waiting for a second one. I know Josh has been trying. He's been contacting all the contractors that were recommended by the supplier of the structure, and it's been difficult to get people to return with quotes. I know our purchasing policy requires 2 if possible, but if we end up getting close to the meeting and we still can't get people to give us a second quote, is that good enough, Paul?
So I have reached out to about 8 other contractors from the list that the supplier provided of contractors that typically do this work, and the one that we're working with is the only one that actually provided a quote to me that we're still working on. But so that's the effort that I put in so far. We have contacted a number of people to try and get a second quote.
We do have a second quote from the original quote for it, but the second quote that Josh is working with was considerably less.
Yeah.
So I'd like to try to keep going in that route if we could.
Excellent, Matt. Thank you.
And C is a contract to install a flow meter and vault at one of our sewer lift stations, the Valley Drive station. This was pulled last month too. We're still working on getting a second quote from a contractor. We do have one quote already. We expect to have that quote in the next week or so, well in advance of the meeting. And that's partially funded by operating funds that we have in the 2000 line and also bonded money that we've been holding on to for a while. We want to get this project done. D is a contract to install insertion valves in our water system. We had planned somewhere between 1 to 2 valves based on the cost. We have one quote already, and we expect a second quote. It seems odd, but we're having trouble getting contractors to give us quotes on projects. I don't know if they're so busy that they don't want to take on extra work, but we'll keep trying. We'll keep calling the same contractors that do this type of work and try to get a second quote.
Okay. That's crazy, but thank you.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I mean, it's there's another item up on our attorney's item that's similar, and where second quotes are just hard to get. E, we're going to begin our flushing of zones 8 and 9 of hydrants. These are the zones that are directly connected to the city. So it's small. It takes a week or two to complete the work, but we'll have a notice in the paper. I think this Sunday is going to be in the paper, and then we're going to also have notice on our webpage and also on the Gazette's webpage as well.
Great. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? This is Paul Briggs.
Yes,
Hey, Paul.
we can.
So I phoned in. Did you hear my report on the Whitmire and Pierce Road?
I would love that. That would make my whole day if I could have the report, please.
So we've sent out packages to both the Whitmire Drive and Pierce Road people.
Paul, what I was asking, we heard that part, but what I was asking was the supervisor is inviting all the Whitmire Drive folks to a meeting after our agenda meeting. So are the Whitmire Drive people set with all the information? Since if we're going to be in a room with them in a week and a half, it may come up.
They have all the information they need with respect to their sewer extension, yes.
Okay. That was the question. I'm sorry to drive you crazy.
That's okay. Did you want me to continue with the attorney items?
Sure.
We don't have an update on the city water bill. Ingersoll Home, there was some confusion about whether my office owed them a response. We did not. The way it's been left is we're waiting for Ingersoll Home to provide us with some proposed resolution to their problem. Haven't heard back from them yet. With respect to the utility easements agreements, if Josh can provide me with the information for those, I'll have those ready for the next meeting.
Hey, Paul, one additional point on that. So one of those easement agreements is for or actually two of those are sewer easements, and one is a drainage easement. We're just trying to get some clarification on how utility easements that when we have an easement agreement that's a stormwater easement, how we could handle that. In the past, it came through this committee, but this used to be the special districts committee. This is no longer special districts. It's changed names several times. Should these be going through highway, since highway is the ultimate has the ultimate responsibility on the maintenance of those easements?
So no, might as well keep them in this committee. My process has been, because I know highways involved, is I contact, for instance, we did a fence agreement for someone at the last meeting, and my process is to contact Ray Smith and determine whether there's anything unique about the property. For instance, on some fence agreements, we have them put in an 8-foot fence so we can access the property. So I'll coordinate that with the highway department to make sure that the fence or the driveway, or in this case a retaining wall, have any issues with respect to their maintenance of the utility or the drainage easement or whatever we're talking about.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
So the other utility easement F was that was related to the subdivision off of Vincenzo. They're just we have an existing sewer easement there that they need to run the driveway across for the two houses and the water service for the two houses. So it's standard agreement.
Okay.
And the maps are attached to the packet for all three properties.
Okay, I see them. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to add one item. I thought about this morning. Knowles Atomic Power Laboratory is working on a plan to provide emergency water supply to their site. And their plan includes using one of the town's fire hydrants on River Road and hooking up their own water line with backflow prevention and a meter and chlorinating and doing whatever they have to do internally. But they wanted to utilize one of our hydrants. The hydrant they wanted to use, I think, dates from the 1960s, and it uses lead in some of the connections on the hydrant. It's not really something we would want them to use for potable water, and an old hydrant like that shouldn't really be relied upon to be turned on and left on and just walked away from. So they agreed to pay to have a new fire hydrant installed there, pay all the costs for the work, and then they're asking for a memorandum of agreement with the town that would give them the ability to tie into that, and it would clearly state out what our responsibility or what their responsibilities would be. And the only thing that we would do is we would send someone over there to turn it on, and just make sure that our system, because we don't want other people touching our system, so we would make sure that we're made whole for that. So because we've had this issue with Knowles in the past, it's much easier for the town to hire a contractor to do the work and then to bill Knowles than for Knowles to have 6-level committees and to try to get this taken care of. It's just much more efficient for us to do it. So I have a quote from a contractor, which we provided to Knowles, and they were perfectly happy with the cost. Do I need to? The cost is $16,000. Do I need to have a second quote, or since Knowles is paying for it and they're happy with the cost, do we have to go through the effort of getting a second quote?
You do not.
Okay. And Paul, I'll send you the information. They're going to give us a draft of the MOA for you to look at.
Okay.
And
Great.
before we move on from the attorney items, can I just circle back to Ingersoll Home too? I got a recent report from our sewer supervisor that they're starting to get the face masks down at the Becker Street pump station too. That's kind of worsening that problem now with the current times. So I just wanted to bring that to attention as well. Well, I know we had talked about if we were concerned that Ingersoll was kind of slow to react to solving this problem, and the town is as a result is left in a vulnerable position where we could incur additional costs, that we should kind of put them on notice that we may potentially start pushing those costs to them, right? So I had Richie tally up the cost, the time, materials, and things for the last repair. That's a number I can provide to you. I just don't know if that's something that we're interested in sending Ingersoll a letter to let them know these are the costs that we're incurring because of, you know, the failure for them to install the grinder that they need on their site. I don't know if that's something we're interested in doing or not, but I just want that conversation.
Well, I guess I'm unclear as to how much longer we're going to let this go on. We've known about it since June. When did this start? May? You know, what is our responsibility here? I know after last month's meeting, we were contacted by the attorney representing Ingersoll and very concerned about the fact that we were looking into this. So do we need to have another conversation with the attorney? Do we need to come up with what we believe is some sort of yet another mediation plan? I mean, we have to be able to do something. We can't just month after month say, okay, and this month we had a repair that we had to make and we found masks and diapers and whatever we're finding. I don't know what we're finding, so I don't, but you just said masks now, so.
Yeah, diapers too. Yep. And it's not even in
I
the.
guessed the diapers. I just guessed.
You're right. So it's not even making. We know it's coming from them because the manhole right out in front of their facility where they discharge into, it's piled up right in the manhole. Even. It's
got to be a public health concern. I can't.
I don't even. We're unsure how their plumbing even is working with the amount of stuff they're pushing down to us. It has to be backing up into their building. I don't know how it's.
So what the part that I'm not understanding about this is there a cost to just throwing this stuff in the garbage? Are haulers charging folks more? Like, it would never dawn on me to throw some of this stuff, flush it, right? That's what's happening is they're flushing.
Well, in the past they blamed it on visitors, and there are no visitors any longer. As far as I'm aware, the families aren't allowed in.
So what would be the benefit for flushing a face mask?
I don't know. Just lazy. I mean, ease.
It would never dawn on me to do that. Like, I don't. So, I mean, are garbage haulers, trash haulers charging places more now to take away?
I don't believe so.
I don't know. You wouldn't know that. But just if you had heard something. Well, we can't have this happen anymore.
So Matt, hasn't this been longer than a few months? It's been over a year, hasn't it?
It would come and go. We would get it on their case. They would get better, and then it would come back again.
Right. We've talked about it for a while, but when did we send a letter and then they sent the letter back? And
there were emails sent years ago, which had some response, but then over the years it progressively got worse again. And then Paul sent a letter. Was it 3 months ago?
I know there was some activity in May, June. I know their letter back to us was in June because I didn't see it, and I said that in a meeting, and they took umbrage with that. So,
so my recommendation is that Josh give me that information, and we send them a letter. And if it's a continuing problem, we'll just start to bill them.
I mean, we have to. Well, first of all, we're documenting it. I'm taking away from this that we're documenting this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we can send them another letter, but there has to be a date on it. So if we send them the letter this week, that by the end of this month, there has to be something that gives, or we're going to just start billing them.
Right. I mean, I think that the thing is, if they're progressing at a reasonable rate towards resolving this, then we're okay. We just don't. I don't know where we're at
I agree
on their end right now.
I absolutely agree. I don't think anybody here is trying to hurt anybody. I mean, it's a very stressful situation over there.
Mhm.
You know, we used to have some sort of line of communication because Sylvester was on the board. You know, I hate to have it at this point where the lawyers are talking to the lawyers because it seems confrontational in a way. But I do know that at some point somebody said to me that we've offered to help. We can offer to help again. You know, they've got a lot of other things to worry about over there other than our sewage system. But
So maybe
you know,
one intermediate step we could take would be to send them a letter asking for their time frame and to see when they expect to have this thing installed, and see if that makes sense to us and is reasonable. And if we're in agreement, and we just wait to that time period. If they don't meet that goal, that's when we could, you know, bring up the cost that we're incurring by them lacking in taking action.
I'm not sure I agree with that. Briggs, are you okay with saying when do you plan to do this?
Well, we've been asking them that for
Right.
quite a
I think we
while
have
now.
to tell them you have to do this by then. And I don't want to give them a hard time, but
Well, I'm just saying, because I know it takes time to design and things like that. I'm not saying, you know, we'll wait a month and then start looking at it. I'm just saying it with, you know, consideration of just how long it takes to do the design and then install.
But Josh, isn't it just an issue of, because I looked at this because we're talking about grinder pumps on Pierce Road and Whitmire.
Mhm.
Isn't it just a matter of if they're going to continue to put this type of waste through the system of putting in a grinder pump, or aren't grinder pumps even capable of handling that type of waste?
I don't know, maybe Matt.
Yeah, so they would need not necessarily a grinder pump, but a grinder, which is more of a more industrial grade grinder. So it similar to like ODEC has on their own system. ODEC will over the years they would flush, you know, pillowcases and sheets down, and similar to like what you see at a prison, where it totally will
I've
master
never seen a
ending.
prison sewer system, Matt. Sorry.
No, sewers. That's what they typically have in sewers because they try to the prisoners and to cause havoc. They try to flush whatever they can down the toilet.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
but this is different. But it's the same idea. You get this fibrous type of material that's flushed that doesn't break down. So it'd have to be something with a macerator or a grinder in it that wouldn't necessarily have to pump, but it would be probably a larger industrial version of what you have in a house. We even Josh and I went into their basement about a month and a half ago and showed them where they would most likely need to place the device. They weren't really that clear on their own plumbing in the building, so I think they're starting from scratch, and they're trying to learn what they have in house anyway, and then how they have to modify it. I mean, we could ask them for a proposed design by a certain date, make that the first step, and then the town looks at it, approves it, and says yes, this works, and we would like this implemented by a certain date. I don't know if that's a possibility.
That's what I'm saying.
So what date do we want to have them propose a design? October 31st?
I think that would be enough time. I mean, they've been in contact with the suppliers around here, I'm sure, and they were trying to use. I think the architect that designed the building was still on their board, and they were trying to use him, I think, to try to save some cost. So I don't know if he's doing it, you know, as
Sure, that's a reasonable thing to want to do, right?
Yeah.
This is why you have boards like that. You have people with different skills.
So I think a month, they can get a rep out there within a couple of days to look at what they have, and they could give them a proposal. Shouldn't be too hard. So I would say,
I'll send a letter out this week.
okay.
Okay. I just had one other thing. If we're Balltown Road, the Balltown Road sewer extension.
I know, Josh, you had talked to the resident there.
I
talk to
emailed
Bixler?
them. I emailed him. I haven't heard back from him yet, but I'm happy to discuss the options with him. I mean, it's you know, the best way to connect was through that church's property, through the woods
Yeah.
there, we believe.
Yes.
So there'd be some legal actions, and they have to reach out to the property owners there, and see if they're willing to, agree to an easement, a private easement, and then working with a contractor to come up with, how best to connect. So there's some steps there. So they would need lawyers involved to draw up the legal language for the easement agreement and things like that.
Can you get our lawyer involved?
Yes.
Okay.
So I've been monitoring that. They would come in as an outside user,
Correct.
but it's just a question of, again, they have to get permission to go across private property. So I can certainly get involved in helping with that. Sometimes we don't get too involved in
I'm not looking to
preparing easements over private property.
Right. I mean, I don't know. This is a resident who came to me. They had me out there. I looked at their house, their neighbors all along there. I mean, we know that that's, a tough stretch for a variety of reasons. If this is something that can be done that the residents want to pay for themselves, I mean, we're not paying for anything, but it's certainly going to improve home values over there. If we can simply aid them with the ease, why wouldn't we do that? It's not going to cost us money. We're not putting it in ourselves.
How many homes are involved?
I don't know, John. Oh, you haven't talked to Bixler?
I have not. Right now, it's just
I
the
don't know.
one. I don't know if we're talking about extending
I
multiple
explained the
properties.
process. I explained the process. They like, getting to know your neighbors. End of it. I don't know how many people it would be.
If it's just one, it would be an outside user. If it's more than one, we'd have to do a district extension.
Yeah.
Because the issue would be that force main that would be running across that property through the easement would be town owned at that point. If it's more than one property,
Yeah.
if it's just one property, then they would have to get a private easement from the church.
Okay. I don't know if there are other people involved in this. Only one of the neighbors contacted me.
I'll go meet with the neighbor and explain the outside user process.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
I'll go meet with him.
He's not looking for us to give him anything. He certainly understands that part of it. So, all right. Thank you all.
Okay, so we'll jump back down to utility billing.
Yeah.
The fall bills are complete. We're finalizing the draft with MailWorks, and they should be in the mail by Friday. They're going to be printed this year, like we had asked in the past. So they are going to be on yellow paper, and not on the white. Because last year, even after all the talking back and forth about printing, and then Paul Sebesta had talked to them on the phone. They were going to do yellow paper. They ended up being delivered in white plain paper. So we've got them to do what we asked them to do. We wanted them to do.
That's great, since we spent like 3 weeks talking about colored paper last year. So it's so disappointing to know that we couldn't pull that off. Great, Matt. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I know it makes Diane's life easier.
Yeah, because
different colors.
it sticks out, and it also makes it easier for the people when they open up a letter from the town. If they're partly interested, but if it's yellow and they know it's a bill, so it sticks out more.
I want to pay this so much more now because it's yellow.
At least it doesn't get lost.
Well, thank you. Great work.
The next two items.
Thank you.
That's good, Diane. Do you have anything else, Diane? I don't want to keep you on. I know you've got a lot to do.
Oh, I do. That's okay. No, thank you for that. And they weren't perforated last time either, but I think Chris said they're going to be now too, Matt.
That was requested, yes.
Yes, thank
Wow,
you.
that's fancy.
So
Is that more, a lot more expensive?
No, they've always been perforated.
Yeah.
Oh, so they because we went to a different vendor. What was the deal? Why were all these issues last year?
Because we used to provide them the paper, and now they provide.
But then they couldn't take the paper anymore. I got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And now I'm sure they certainly can't take paper from us. So okay, got it.
The next two items are related to each other. Last board meeting, we approved the reconciliation and the warrant for the residential utility bills for second half of 2019 and the first half of 2020. There was a glitch in having to do with an inactive account, which ended up throwing off the reconciliation that then carried into the warrant. It was over a matter of $2.40, but we fixed it. We found where the issue was, and we need a resolution just to amend those two. It was a late fee related to an inactive account, which by default, when they ran the bill, it didn't show up until afterwards. We looked at it and found that it was needed to be addressed. We worked with FlexiBill, and they showed us how to correct that, and it won't happen again. But it was a matter of $2.40. It was the late fee on an unpaid bill.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's something that doesn't happen very often, but because it was an inactive account that still had money on the account that it owed. So D is the just the second quarter of 2020 corporate utility reconciliation. Chris is finishing that up. We'll have that by finance. And E, Bellevue Hospital sent us a check. So
Great news. That was quick. Very nice job, everyone.
well, they did it before we even had a chance to work with them with a payment plan. So they just paid it. So they fixed the problem for us. So we no longer have to worry about the payment plan.
They knew we had ISMIT. They knew. We upped our game around here.
You got it.
Heavy hitter. They knew they had to pay quickly.
So on the finance committee section, majority of these are carried down from up above, but I leave it on there just to keep it so we don't forget about it. The Spectrum franchise agreement. I don't know how much we can't talk much about it here at this meeting, but
We can always talk about anything. I just don't think that there's anything to really say. I mean, there's a bunch of things like that are just sort of hanging out there. I don't think there's anything new to report, but I will tell you, people are no happier today than they were when we first started trying to deal with this. So, Alexis, do you have anything to add about that?
No update, but I have seen just on Nextdoor that there's a resurgence of people complaining about quality, asking if FiOS. So I can, like I said, I can reach out again to Spectrum, but the ball's kind of in their court right now.
Okay, thank you.
and the rest of these are all just carried from up above. And then other departments, Ray's been working to regrade the site from the former water and sewer garage. I think it's getting closer to being completed. I don't know if he's on the call, but I think his plan was to get it down to gravel for the winter. And I think he still has to adjust the grade a little bit more because it's still a little bit too high so that everything blends in nicely. But it's looking good so far. And once they fill around the building, we can finalize the grading around the garage or the transfer station bathroom and start having our staff be able to use that. I want to get that in and up and running before the winter so that they have a place to use the restroom instead of a porta potty, and a place to wash their hands, and also for the people working at or using the transfer station have a place to wash their hands if they need to. That's all I have. The next meeting, I assume, would be November 5th at 8:30 a.m. I don't know. Do you think we'll be remote or in person that time?
I'm hoping we'll be in person. That's a good question.
I can't wait for that.
Find out. Yeah, after the agenda meeting, if we successfully pull that off in person, then it will be in person from then on out.
That's good news. So that's all I have.
Great. Thank you all very much. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.